Scholar Ologbondiyan is a former National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party. It joins me from our Abuja studio. Mr. Ologbondiyan, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much, Geoffrey. Good evening, and good evening, Nigerians.
Before we go to the nitty-gritty of what's playing out in your party, just a few days ago, we saw what happened, and I think a few days ago, we saw another proposal for the suspension of the embattled National Secretary who is at the Supreme Court. But before all of that, let's talk about some of the things that have happened at the National Assembly. Two things, basically, and they all happened in the Senate. First, this bill that has passed second reading because the lawmakers found out that by journalists like us, military persons, ad hoc staff, and all the people that are involved in making sure elections are smooth and as much as good as possible, they are disenfranchising about 1.4, 1.6 or 7 million people. And President Bola Tinubu won that election by a margin of about 1.8 million. So what's your take on this progress, if you will, being made with the early voting, as well as amidst the controversy around sexual harassment, on parliamentary behavior, on Natasha Akpoti, and all the things around it? The Senate has now passed a vote of confidence on the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio. Your take on those two things, then we'll get to your party.
Okay, thank you, Geoffrey. First, to the electoral bill, where if it's well processed, it could be an improvement on the electoral system. However, since the bill is going to go through the public hearing, and Nigerians will have the opportunity to review, to study, and to make sure that it is not to the favor of any group of persons or party, is a welcome development. So we all wait till when it goes to the public hearing, and Nigerians will have the opportunity to examine that. Until that is done, I don't think it requires so much of comment from me, because I'm hearing of the bill for the first time from you. But it is good that the bill has come to the public domain. That the bill will come to the public domain when it goes for public hearing. On the issue of sexual harassment and the vote of confidence, I think Senator Akpabio, Senator Godswill Akpabio, the Senate President, will be the first President of the Senate that will have sequentially close to 3 or 4 vote of confidence in a space of less than 2 years. And I think that should be worrisome to himself, to the Senate as an institution, because the concept of vote of confidence, if you understudy it, it shows that there is crisis and the presiding officer needs to be protected or need to be reassured that the floor is with him. That is why you talk about vote of confidence. So I think that the fact that vote of confidence has become a recurrent decimal in this particular Senate shows that there is no peace in the Senate. And if there is peace in the Senate, then it means that it could be the peace of the graveyard.
Okay, I just wanted your take on that because Nigerians are commenting at different fora. We've always explained that there are 3 issues in front as far as Natasha Akpoti, the senator, is concerned. One has to do with the parliamentary conduct. The other has to do with defamation and counter-defamation. That is the subject of adjudication. And then the last, which is the most prominent and sensitive, has to do with that sexual harassment that she took to the International Parliamentary Union. But let's come to your party. One of the latest things that has happened, which I'd like you to speak to, has to do with, is it a fracas or the face-off that happened at the National Secretariat? Maybe you let us in as to what played out. But my interest is the recommendation by the Tommy Kimmy National Disciplinary Committee, yes, that's what it's called, led by High Chief Tommy Kimmy, recommending that Senator Sam Ayan will be suspended. They recommended that to NEC. How did they come to that point? Because I know that his case is still a subject of, is still pending at the Supreme Court.
Well, those are 2 separate things. The case at the Supreme Court has to do with the decision of the Southeast geopolitical zone of our party to elect a replacement for Senator Sam Ayan having gone to contest election. And the case had gone through the processes of other segments of the court, like the High Court, like the Court of Appeal, where Senator Sam Ayan was unable to win. Then he proceeded first to the Court of Appeal to go and ask for stay of execution, then he has gone to the Supreme Court to ask for stay of execution, and to also look at the substantive matter. That one is ongoing. You will recall that in the course of the week, that the Supreme Court did take a decision on the issue of stay of execution, which means that there wasn't a stay, but the substantive matter has been heard and judgment is being awaited. Now that's one issue. The second issue is the fact that people loyal to Samayahu or Senator Samayahu were going to stop a meeting of the party at the National Secretariat. And there was an engagement, a scuffle, so to say, within the workers in the party, as well as members of the party, and those who came to say that meeting was not held in the Secretariat. And at the end of the day, the meeting held. Now, I was asking about the decision of the National Disciplinary Committee to recommend suspension or expulsion of Senator Sam Anyanwu. That decision is predicated on the powers exercised by the National Disciplinary Committee, who has invited, which I read, because I'm not a member, I read had invited Senator Sam Anyanwu to appear before it. They have repeated the invitation for a second time, which he has not appeared. He has not appeared before the committee. However, he pointed to the issue of his matter that is before the Supreme Court. And in the decision of the National Disciplinary Committee, they said that they have not seen anything in his response or in the matter before the Supreme Court that showed that taking a decision on him will affect what is going on in the court. That's all that I know about it, Geoffrey.
So, I want you to look at, because I know you can't be objective, because you say you're also a journalist and you're a politician, so you wear two caps all in one. Now, is it not worrying? The reason I had to raise, there are a couple of issues I will point out as to some of the concerns about the state of the PDP. One of which is, how come an election is coming up in November? Correct me if I'm wrong, but to the best of my knowledge, an election in Anambra State, governorship election, and no one has picked the party's ticket or the party's form to run for governor. Explain to us what this means, because it's almost inexplicable.
Geoffrey, maybe you are not following the trends in the party. I think somebody has picked form, one person.
Okay.
And I'm aware that a committee, somebody Nwafo or something like that, has picked a form. I had also come out in public to raise the fears that we don't have an aspirant in Anambra, and I put the blame at the doorstep of the national chairman of the party, Ambassador Eliasu Damagum. But however, as of today, somebody has picked form. Somebody in Nwafo has picked form. A committee has been constituted to screen him, and I think he has even been screened. So that's where we are. As you know, Geoffrey,
Mr. Alobade, just a moment, as you continue your thoughts.
A lot of challenge.
I will allow you to just, you see what you have said, you have to labor to remember the person, now pick a form in a party, like the People's Democratic Party, like some time ago, people would literally die to get a ticket, whether they win or not, just to have their name as a former governorship candidate of the party. And now, people are leaving or choosing not to pick form. So what is the leadership doing to reposition? I guess that's my question. That's my curiosity, because it doesn't look good at all. And I keep challenging every day. Maybe I have to bet with you at some point to say we have to be betting as to when neck will hold. Because you tell me neck will hold, I say it will not hold, and it will not hold. I don't like to be a prophet of doom. So is it not concerning?
Well, it's concerning. But, Geoffrey, I can also tell you that by the event that happened today, I mean, the inauguration of the South-South Caretaker Committee under the leadership of Emmanuel Ogidi, I think it appears that the national chairman of the party, Ambassador Eliasu Damagum, has gotten a wake-up call. he has challenged members to confront the opposition party or the ruling government, the ruling party, the All Progressives Congress, and that they should stop being afraid of it. So prior to now, the situation in the party has been such that the party has been losing blood through hemorrhaging. But when we woke up today, at the event that occurred today, Damagun appears to have turned a new leaf. He's now encouraging the party members, perhaps for reasons that only him will later explain to party members. At least he's creating a new line of action. And I believe that if he's acting truly in faith and also in a desire for the party to return to its stead, it will be a welcoming development.
So at the end of the day, doesn't this give credence to some of the assertions, even though you might have said it the way some people may not like it? Nyesom Wike granted the media party, is it yesterday or 2 days ago, about the state of the NWC. Oh, I don't want to use his words, because I can't use his words on television, but almost borderline impotency on the part of the NWC, because it's more like, look, who are they? What can they really do? Follow guidelines and follow the principles of the party. And so, as the NWC, as it is constituted now, I know that I think the convention is coming anytime soon this year. As it is constituted now, what is the party doing to resolve some of the things that may be like sabotage or interests that are deflating the potency of the party to reposition it as a viable opposition? Because now people are there are coalitions going on. El-Rufai, former governor, has left the APC and has joined the SDP. We're seeing Peter Obi speaking with Bala Mohammed, all kinds of movement happening.
Well, there's nothing you can do about movements, because politicians will always move. There will be alignment and there will be realignment. So that is for certain. And there's hardly anything that we can do about that. But having said that, I also listened and watched the interview that you spoke about concerning the FCT minister, Chief Nyesom Wike. Maybe the party might owe it to him at the end of the day, maybe because of the manner in which he spoke, which, like you have said, I can also not use those words. Maybe that has reawakened the leadership of the party. But the days, the weeks, the months that are ahead will determine if this leadership has turned a new leaf and is now ready to lead the party appropriately. You also spoke, Geoffrey, about the convention coming up this year. When you spoke about the convention coming up this year, I was surprised when you're now asking again that how are we going to correct the situations. If we have a convention this year, it means that there's opportunity to correct the situations that we have on our hands.
Can we dare to say it's going to be difficult for the PDP as a standalone political party? Can we dare to say, as a standalone party, it's going to be difficult for the PDP to unseat the APC as it is constituted today? So what is in the works for the PDP to see how they can maybe offset the polls in 2027? Are we talking merger or coalition? What is the what is viable, what is feasible, what is doable?
Geoffrey, you earlier spoke about alignment, you spoke about movement. I spoke about alignment.
I'm asking for two. Coalition, merger, what is in the works?
If you recall, I did say it at some point that there will be implosion in the parties, and I have not taken that words back. Whether in APC, whether in fact APC is already happening. You just said El-Rufai has left. And El-Rufai will not live, he will not live alone. There are others who also live in the APC. In PDP, there are such tendencies. In Labour Party, there are such tendencies. So as we move, as we progress into the second year of this administration, as we progress into partisanship, we will see a lot of things coming up, a lot of things happening. I think that bookmakers will need to wait till that period before they can say, oh, this party will do this or that party will do that. But one assurance that I'm getting is that by the words spoken by Damagum today, if he truly meant them, I think that the PDP might still have an opportunity to rebound.
Well, we'll take your word for it and continue to look at it at the end of the day. When I read some of the submissions, and this is now talking about the political parties in general. We're going to go to other issues. Let's talk about political parties in general. If you look at some of the submission of the Supreme Court judgment that came from the case of Rivers State with the avalanche of cross appeals and all of that. I don't want to go to details. We've exhausted that. But I'm going to touch a few things that I would like to piggyback on for you to respond to. You'll see that the court constantly says issues around political parties should be left to political party, including membership and leadership. Now, if you look critically, the way it is, the words are written and the way the Supreme Court references it, it almost appears like there's the danger of leaving political parties in the hands of people with a lot of war chest and money bags, which is exactly what the military in the Third Republic tried to mitigate against. There are so many things they did wrong, but that's one thing they did. They didn't want founders of political parties. They just wanted people to join political parties as individuals, not money bags, trying to ban a few people from being quote-unquote leaders of parties. So the military formed NRC and SDP and told all the politicians, join anyone you like. Everybody is a joiner, not a founder, if you can capture it in the book of, in the IBB's book that he wrote recently. But when the court constantly says, political parties, you will determine your fate. Some things are not even justiciable. Those are clearly written in the judgment. How can political parties insulate themselves to a level which is maybe not totally possible from money bags deciding the fate of political parties? Because that is what is going on, and that is what's causing the rift today in political parties.
Well, I agree with you, and I've also canvassed that situation, Geoffrey, that parties should be allowed to be self-funding. When we were in the NWC, under the leadership of Prince Uche Secondus, we tried to come up with a situation where party could become self-funding. And I also remember, as a reporter, that one of the past chairmen also tried to introduce that. But when we started under Secondus, we wanted a situation where membership drive will make contributions, even if it is 50 kobo or 1 naira, so that parties can function independently, but under the thorough supervision of members. However, we didn't get approval for it, and that's for very obvious reason. We never got the approval for it. So the tendency of Nigerians to rise and choose to fund their parties so that the parties can be independent of money bags will be achievable if Nigerians themselves are interested in having parties that are independent of money bags. But also, mind you, that also control the affairs of the parties. We also not want a situation in which they cannot determine what happened. In time past, in the Second Republic, Geoffrey, when Babawulo was Shagari and all of them were in charge of the parties, to some extent, parties were funded by members until we have the scenario where only one man can say that he paid for the forms of everybody that is contesting. Until we have a scenario in which today in our polity, if you do not have a war chest, you cannot stand up and say you are contesting an election, no matter how much you are loved by your people. Because if we will win the election and your opponent takes you to court and has more war chest at the tribunal and proceeding to other courts, back to ground zero.
In winding down, Mr. Alogbodinyo,
which we have found ourselves.
In winding down, Mr. Alogbodinyo, let's talk about what your party is going to do about the scale of defection. Because It is part of this. Of course, the Supreme Court has ruled on the issue of Rivers State. That case that is Justice Joyce Abdulmalik's case that ended at the Supreme Court, which drew strength from Justice James Omotosho and the appeal court, which was a case filed before the defection. But part of what the Supreme Court said, the Supreme Court did not even go to the issue of what constitutes division and all of that. There's a locus classicus to that effect. It was the fact that the chairman of the PDP told the court, it's on record, that he said, these guys are still members of our party and they are paying dues. The chairman of the APC said, they are not members of our party, they are not paying dues. So that was some kind of the premise. So the court couldn't even get to the point of whether there was division or not. But now, more people are defecting from your party. Perhaps more will defect in the name of alignment and realignment. Is the PDP going to pursue a legal case here to gain back the seats at those assemblies where those things are possible? That's the final question for you.
Well, Geoffrey, that depends largely on the position of the working committee. I'm not a member of the National Working Committee. So the decision to go after the seats that have been vacated or not lies with the National Working Committee, under whose purview it is to run the party on day-by-day basis. What they can do is to bring report back to the National Executive Committee. But as we speak, one of the reasons why we had such defections is because there was no order in the party and the system was breaking. Well, like I said earlier on, before we have the convention, if Damagum can mean the words that he pronounced today, perhaps it will build more courage in the hearts of party members and party leaders. Thank you.
Mr. Kolo Ologbondiyan, always a delight to have you on the program. Mr. Kolo Ologbondiyan is a former National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, now a journalist cum politician who always is kind enough to come whenever I call on him on the program. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you, sir.
Thank you, Geoffrey. Thank you, Geoffrey.